Good Friday afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the live class that I'm having for our yoga students today. I hope a few of you will be able to trickle in. Today we're just going to do a lot of basic yoga stretches and movements, and we're going to keep it really simple and easy so that it generates just a really nice flow that is very calming and soothing to our nervous system. Very important in these times right now that we take a little bit of time throughout the day to do something like yoga that's very calming and nurturing for us. You know, and by cultivating that one intention in your day, you'll see that as you bring that into life for yourself, that maybe when you start setting more intentions, maybe just 1 to 2 to 3 a day, that you'll find yourself expanding to making better choices and decisions for you, right? Your health, for your relationships, and your loved ones, your family, your community, and even if you're in a place of work, maybe even that will trickle into your workplace. So I'm going to begin. And I'm going to start by sitting on, coming back a little further. I'm sitting on my blanket in a cross-legged position and sitting up nice and tall. And as you begin your practice, you may be in a lot of times in a seated position like this. And if you're just not comfortable sitting on the floor, go sit on a chair. You know, the most important thing I feel as we start to get on our mat is that we get to center. We get to center, maybe even feel our heart space. So important, that heart space. When you're ready, you can either have your eyes closed or you can shift your eyes down towards the floor. I'm going to close my eyes completely. And as soon as I do close the eyes, I just notice the breath coming through. How nice it is to nostril breathe. Because really, the only time that we're mouth breathing is hopefully for a short period of time when we are in exertion. The rest of the time, the mouth open is for chewing food, okay? And swallowing. So that's really the only 2 times that you want to have the mouth open unless you have a cold and just can't breathe out in your nostrils. So let's take about, just a little bit of time here. Feeling the breath enter and leave. How intentionally, again, I'm going to use that word, you are setting yourself into your breath pace. Just nice and slow. You may be able to feel how your lungs expand the ribs when you inhale. And when you exhale, there's a relaxing sensation that releases that air out of the lungs and through the nostrils. Inhaling and exhaling. So be in your heart space for another couple breaths. And the heart and lungs work together. And if you feel so inclined today, put a little smile on your lips. Communicate that smile to your heart. Feel your heart smiling back at you. And use this smile throughout your practice. And then you can begin to allow your eyes to open. And let the legs go long on the floor. I'm going to sit back a little bit so hopefully you'll be able to see my feet. Again, I like sitting on blankets. You don't have to. But I really want to make sure you guys are in the middle of your butt bones if you're stretching your legs out. Hi, everyone that's coming in. I can't see the names, but I hope that you're joining me in the yoga practice today. And so we're going to come into this pose with our legs straight, or if you have something you can slide behind the back of your knees. This pose is called Seated Dandasana Staff Pose. So you can do it either way. If you're sitting on the floor, you're getting a hip opener. So we're going to let it lift our chest nice and high, keep the head right on top of that cervical spine. And with an inhale, let's just take those arms up to the ceiling. Inhale, exhale, just feel this extension of your spine into your arms. And then you're going to inhale. And when you exhale, let's take the hand, it doesn't matter which one, just take one down to the floor and take that other one, maybe even drawing it over as far as you can, and you can bend your bottom elbow. So we're going to inhale, come up, and we're going to kind of teeter-totter now from side to side. So it's a nice opening. It's a nice feeling for that rib cage, your intercostals between your ribs. And you're staying on the middle of those butt bones. You're just feeling again how we create this flow. We're inhaling at the center to the top, and we're exhaling to stretch. So we want to do a couple more on each side. Inhaling and exhaling, just so easy. But oh man, you can feel how you're stretching the rib cage. I'm going to go one more time on my opposing side. You can do the same. Inhaling and exhaling, just bring yourself back to center. We're going to try to, work our way through gravity in each of our poses today, keeping as much of that extension as possible through our spine and, as we open the hips also. So let your legs kind of shake out a little bit here. And I do have a couple of props. If you like to use props, great. If you don't, just move, if you don't have them, that's fine also. So what we're going to take on next is, again, I say basic poses, doesn't mean that I'm doing a gentle yoga class. So this next pose that we're going to practice is going to be downward facing dog. So I'm going to be using a block to demonstrate this. And again, if you don't have props, you just kind of modify your way through. So this block is going to go towards an end of my mat. And we're going to start in a tabletop posture. Everyone usually knows this one right here, where your wrists are underneath your shoulders. And then I want you to take your feet and line up your big toe to the outer part of that block if you have it, or block width apart. We're going to take the hands a little bit forward and then take on downward facing dog. So your heels can either set on the high. I don't think I'm going to do high. Actually, it's too high. Let's just go a little bit lower here. Come back through and take your heels to set right on the top of that block, or your heels high with your legs pretty straight, the navel tucked. So you're inhaling and exhaling here. You're strengthening your shoulders. You're releasing those hamstrings without them pulling the pelvis down. Think about the nice shoulders that you can have by doing downward facing dog. A nice, really balanced shoulder here. Inhaling and exhaling. I want you to inhale, come down to your knees, and exhale. And then stretch yourself into a child's pose with your hands forward. We'll call this an extended child's pose. Spread your fingers, and then take your forehead down to the mat or on a prop, inhaling and exhaling. So you want to keep that integrity of the arm right now, and of the palm pressing down into your mat. So once again, let's inhale, just leave the hands right where they are, and exhale, take that downward facing dog, walk back so you can take those heels onto your block if you have one, navel in. And again, no problem if you don't have a block, because you can always just take your heels towards the mat. So navel in and lift your butt bones even higher than you did the first time. So we're learning how to lengthen as we strengthen, as we create breath flow. Again, maybe putting a little smile on your face feels really, really good. As you inhale and exhale in your downward facing dog, we're going to just start to walk our feet now towards the center of our mat, and then we're going to walk our hands back to our feet in a pose called Uttanasana. It's a standing forward fold with your feet. I'm going to turn. So whether your feet are, a couple of inches apart, or they're together, I like mine apart, straight knee or bent knee. Let's just hang down. I want you to hold your elbows today. I'm going to turn one more time so I can go side view, because we want our balance from the ankle, outer knee to outer hip, as we just hunker over. I love bent knees because I feel a great hamstring stretch, and hope so do you. That's safe on your back. Inhaling and exhaling, Uttanasana, a standing forward fold. Let's take about 3 more breaths. Feel your breath. Notice that this feels a little cooler to you also, because your head is, lower, and that's where the cool air is. Good, and then let's just let your arms drop down. And I want you to step your hands forward and walk your feet back without that block this time. And take yourself back to downward facing dog. And then we're going to lift your heels up as high as they can go. Tuck your navel in. And then when you inhale, bend your knees in, and exhale, lift your butt up just a slight amount. So you really want your back to feel stretched. Inhale, straighten those legs any amount, and exhale, draw your heels down slowly towards the mat. They may not go all the way down, mine never do, but yours might, as long as we can keep that V as in Victor position. We're going to walk forward, we're going to walk the hands back. This pose, once again, is a standing forward fold, where we're going to hold our elbows once again. And we're having a thunderstorm here, so if you hear any noise, it's that. And we're going to let the head traction down heavily. While you inhale and exhale, get your balance on the soles of your feet. Heel to the big toe ball mount and pinky toe, so it forms a tripod. And next, as we inhale, yes, we're going to exhale and let those arms lower down. We're going to come back to downward facing dog. A big practice today with our dog. Basic poses, basic poses. Okay, from your downward facing dog, navel pulls in. See if you can take your right leg up any amount, maybe halfway is really good. Okay. And then you're going to bend your right knee, and you're going to flatten that foot for a moment. Push the floor away. Now we're going to straighten the leg and let it go out a little bit more. And then take your foot to the floor. Come back to downward facing dog, and let's just do the other side for a moment. Just left leg up. You're going to use a lot of strength here. We're going to bend the knee, maybe flatten the foot. Begin to straighten that leg. It may go up a little higher on your inhale to exhale it back down to the floor. And then come back to your tabletop posture. And then return to a child's pose with your arms forward. So can you walk your hands any amount forward, spread your fingers. Take the forehead and gradually lower it down. Hopefully it will touch the floor. If not, just leave it lifted slightly. Inhaling and exhaling. So this can be a resting pose, child's pose. We'll use it as a resting pose today. And downward facing dog is never a resting pose. It's always an active pose. Inhale, come back to your tabletop, and exhale. And then we're going to take a low lunge pose. So I want you to bring your right foot forward. And then take that left knee and shoot it back any amount that's comfortable for you. From here, we're going to lift the arms up, and they're going to go as high as you can so they feel like they're an extension of your spine. It's like you've got this beautiful chest opener coming through. And possibly, you can even back bend and look at the ceiling above you. And then we're going to inhale, take the head and gaze forward. And as you exhale, just take your hands down and place them on the floor on each side of your foot. Lift your back knee and go into high lunge with your fingertips on the floor. So I love this pose. The back heel is up. The navel's tucked. I want you to begin to straighten your right leg. Inhaling, and when you exhale, let your back round and just kind of bow into this. So this is more like a cat posture. So we're going to inhale, bend the knee. We're going to lift the chest, and that's more like that lunge with a dog. And then one more time, let's take that straight leg and bow like a cat back. And then come back into your high lunge pose. We're going to bring our back foot forward, so that left foot just came forward. So I'm going to come back a little bit here. You want your feet lined up in Uttanasana. Now, we're going to come back through, and we're going to bend the knees and walk back to downward facing dog. So maybe not so smooth if you're a beginner, right? Maybe not so smooth. But take your time and you'll get it. You'll get all of these connections. Come back to Tabletop Pose. We're going to skip out of the Child's Pose to take your left foot forward. And the right knee can come back as far as it's comfortable in your body. And the arms are coming up. Inhale. Exhale. Can you feel your heart opening here? Can you feel that back bend you're creating? And you can go any amount back or look up if it feels good with an inhale and exhale. We're going to inhale, head and gaze forward. Exhale, take the hands back to the floor. So we have that posture with a low lunge. With a high lunge, the back knee comes up off the floor. So we want to take an inhale. And when you exhale, the leg can straighten any amount. You're going to bow towards your knee. And then we're going to inhale, bend the knee, and lift the chest. So here's that dog. Exhale, straighten the leg. That becomes more cat-like. And this last time, we're going to inhale, bend that knee, and exhale with the back foot, right foot coming forward. We'll step through and remain in a standing forward fold for another breath. And then we're going to start to come on up. You can do a back knee, or you can come up and lift, inhaling and exhaling. We're going to have really bad thunderstorm here right now. And then hands to heart. So I may end up losing connection, but just know that if it comes back on, I'll be back on. If that happens, it's because of the weather. So here we are. We're going to be standing in the middle of our mat. We started in seated Dandasana staff pose. This is our Tadasana pose. So the legs are pretty straight, right? The heel to the ball of the foot. I sort of really want you to feel your balance because a lot of us start pushing the legs back. So can you balance on the soles of your feet and engage the ball mount of your big toe and pinky toe? So you can feel that arch support coming all the way up your legs to balance your hips, up your spine, right, to the crown. And then back down, you've got your arms unfolding here, your chest open. We're going to inhale and lift the arms up to the ceiling, Urdhva Hastasana. Right, so a nice extension. And feel how your feet are just glued into the mat. Really just feeling the grounding right now. And this is a little bit here. We can really call this a little bit of a strengthening for the bones in the legs. We're going to inhale again. And as you exhale, just let the arms float. Come all the way down. Inhale, exhale. Good. So the poses that we're going to move into today, we're just going to do a couple of standing poses. So let's begin with playing with our Virabhadrasana 2 today. So I want you to come out in a straddle, what's called a Straddle Tadasana. Get your feet weighted equally, and your heart is going to be open. We're going to do this in a little bit more of a challenging flow way. So I want you to start to take your arms halfway up, and then lift the arms as high as they'll go, inhaling and exhaling. And then we're going to turn out the right foot, and then we're going to take the arms halfway out. I'm going to have to look at that right foot knee you made too. Make sure it's tracking over the middle two toes, and then your gaze is over your right hand. Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. And while you're taking your inhales and exhales, notice if you can open your chest. You can feel the breath coming through, and you are nostril breathing. With another inhale, you're going to inhale and then exhale, take your arms back down. Take your right foot back to center where you're in a straddle. Lift the arms all the way to the ceiling. And then take out and turn out your left foot for Warrior 2 on the left side. We'll bend that left knee. And I have to look at my left foot alignment. You may also, that knee tracking towards your middle two toes. And then we're going to extend the gaze, that compassionate warrior gaze, past the left hand and arm. So it's everything about just lengthening here and getting our strength. As we inhale, you're going to exhale and just take your arms back down. Or we're going to take that left foot back to center, but I want you to stay in a straddle with your feet, you know, pretty much lined up with each other. And then we're going to inhale. We're going to go back to a forward fold from the top as we forward fold over. Nice and long. Keep your fingertips on the floor between the feet. And when you inhale, can you lift your chest? Let the head follow, looking down at the floor, and exhale. This is a straddled forward fold. One more inhale. And when you exhale, begin to maybe soften your knees. You're going to turn to your right, turning this back into a high lunge pose. Remember, we did a high lunge a moment ago. So let's go to high lunge. And when you inhale and exhale, I want you to tuck your navel in. And just see if your arms can come up towards the ceiling. So you're really going to be working on a lot of strengthening and balancing. As we inhale and exhale, I want you to take another inhale, lift your chest. And when you exhale, hands go back down to the floor. This time when your hands go back down, you're going to bring your front foot, slide it back, go back to downward facing dog. Remember, this is not a resting pose. If you need to rest, you'll be in child's pose. We're going to lift the heels as high as we can with the legs pretty straight. Tuck the navel in. And then I want you to bend your knees in towards your face. So you become a K, like a kite. Navel in, butt up just a little bit. Inhale, straighten the legs a little more. And exhale to see if your heels want to descend a little bit as you press the floor away. Now you want to be a V as in Victor. You're going to come back down to your knees. And we'll take the tops of the feet down to the floor. I may have to walk back a little bit here so you can see me hopefully better. I want you to walk your hands forward. And then this is a roll down, so we can start to touch the top of the thighs, elbows bend, pubic bone, belly button, sternum, forehead. Inhale to low cobra, hands are back. Elbows are tightly in. The knees are up, and we're inhaling and exhaling without using any hand strength to strengthen now our back. I want you to take 3 more breaths here. Keep your neck happy by looking down at the floor and draw those elbows in. With your next inhale, you're going to exhale the hands slightly forward, knees to the floor. And then I want you to just roll up, tabletop. And then walk out a little bit so you can return to downward facing dog. Basic poses. Walk forward. Walk your hands back so you're standing in a forward fold or Uttanasana. And it's kind of cool. So, you know, if you're looking on the video, you can even look at your own body and your alignment here, right? We don't want to be pushed back or taking the heels off. And then just let your arms ragdoll down. Bend your knees if you need to. I always have a slight bend in my knees. Heads hanging heavily. So we can use this as our cooling pose. And then on your inhale, come up, and you can do bent knees or straight legs. Exhale, and I'm going to turn around. So those hands are going to set at your heart, and then eventually come all the way down, and you can take a moment to walk your feet out, feel your breath. I feel like my heart is beating really strong right now, I know it is. So let's go back through here, and we're going to go back to take on our Warrior 2. And then we're going to move into an extended side angle pose. And we're going to link those two together. So I want you to come back into your straddle. Feel the soles of the feet on the way down it so you're not slapping back. And then arms are going to lift up just for a little extra here. It's really working on balance on both feet. Warrior 2 is turning out that right foot while you start coming through. And again, you may drop your gaze to your foot. It's okay to do that. And then level those hips. It's kind of like you're lunging here. And then you're gazing out over your right hand. And if you need to look at me, that's fine if you don't know these poses. An extended side angle pose, We're going to bend the elbow. We're going to shift the forearm onto the thigh. I want you to lift and turn your chest. So look at how symmetrical everything is. If my arm is up, if my hand had to go on my hip, or I decide to take the arm over the ear, which is the way that you usually see this, to turn the face, maybe halfway up or at the bicep. Extended side angle pose. Beautiful extension here. What I want you to do next is inhale, come all the way up, straighten your leg, go out to a star figure, and then come back to warrior two. Inhaling, exhaling, arms down. Foot back to center, and then keep your straddle unless you need to hang out for a moment and regain your posture. Make sure you're balanced on the soles of your feet. The arms are lifting back up. We're going to turn the left foot out and move back to warrior two. So I always like to wiggle a little bit around. Like sometimes I'll move my back foot, find my head engaged position, level those hips, engage the inner thigh, inner knee to point towards the middle two toes. Warrior two. And moving into extended side angle, we'll bend the elbow, shift the forearm on the thigh. So again, if you have shoulder issues, maybe the elbow is bent or the arm goes up halfway. We're going to extend it over the ear, and we're not pulling the rib cage, right? We're going to keep it nice and tight and tucked, whether we're gazing forward or we're just turning the head and gaze. Inhale, come all the way up, and exhale, star, warrior two. Inhaling, exhaling, take the arms back down. Take your foot back to center. Now if you can remain in straddle, let's do so. And we're going to inhale one more time here with the arms coming up. Exhale, keep that weight balanced on your feet, and forward fold over, hands to the floor. Hands to the floor, fingertips, take a flat back pose. Inhaling and exhaling, you're going to turn to your left in a high lunge pose. So that means that back knee is up. And we're going to take another couple of breaths here. Taking that high lunge pose just like we did on the other side. And this is a great hip flexor stretch. And it can also, if you can't do any deeper poses for the hip flexor, this may be the one that you use. So let's tuck the navel in. See if you can take your arms up. If you have to come up a little higher, no problem, right? See if you can work on balance, because these are our balancing poses tonight. With your heart up, your head and gaze could be forward or up. We're going to inhale and come back down, exhale, hands to the floor. Your front foot slides back. We're not going to talk about plank tonight. You can do it. You don't have to. We're going to go right into downward facing dog. Inhaling and exhaling. So see what you can do to take a pinky toe to each side of your mat. Take a slight bend in your knees. Tuck the navel in so you can lift your butt higher. And then lower your heels down any amount. And they may touch. Yeah, my pose when I do that now, I have to have my heels up. Knees slightly bent, navel tucked. Inhaling. And exhale, walk your feet back towards center. Put a bend in your knees, you're back to tabletop. I'm going to lower back. One more time, we're going to come with the hands forward, navel in, elbows bending back. You're going to lower down to the floor. And when you inhale, that low cobra is coming through, which means the knees are up, toes are down, elbows are in, navel's in, and the hips are pressed into the floor. So one more pose here on the belly to get our back nice and really fit. Go into your Superwoman pose. Superman, Superwoman. Arms come forward, head is in line with your shoulders and armpit, biceps. Toes are open, fingers are open. Inhale. Exhale, bend your elbows. Let your head come down on your arm. Let your legs relax for a moment or two. So your head could be on one side or the other, on the ear, or right directly at your center. Is your heart beating strongly? And do you feel how you can, again, you can use basic poses and still get a really good yoga practice going. It doesn't always have to be really difficult. So I want to begin for the next couple of breaths. Is what we're going to come into is we're going to move over and, or I shouldn't say move over, we're going to come up and we're going to go into seated positioning. Now that our bodies are nice and warm, this is the best time to gain hip flexibility in our seated postures on the floor, with or without a blanket. Like I said, I like to sit on a blanket. It's okay if you don't. But whether or not you're sitting on a blanket, so if I didn't sit or if I was sitting on one, I like to get that butt flex and pull it way behind me so I can feel the middle of those butt bones. And boy, are they bony, those sit bones. You know, so a lot of times people say, I can't find mine because I have, you know, maybe a bigger booty or something, but you'll find it, it's there. They're there, and just they're those bony places that, you know, they're the sit bones. And you just want to make sure that you're pretty much on the middle. You could go slightly back on your butt bones, which is not wrong, but leaning back is wrong. So what we're going to start with next here as we're sitting down on the floor is that we're going to take the feet into what's called Baddha, Konasana, or Cobblers Pose. So you may look more like a diamond, or your feet may be drawing in and you're still on the middle of your butt bones, because you don't want to be this. Again, we don't want that with the pubic bone up. We really need to find this posture that supports us with or without props. So I've got my blocks here, but I choose not to use them. I'm fine without them. And then I want you to use your hand or your forearms as crossbars between your inner thigh and inner calf. So your arms are kind of heavy right now, but you're sitting up tall, right? We're trying not to do this. Again, it happens. It probably took me more years than I want to admit to get into any of these postures with pretty good alignment. It took a lot. So just be kind to yourself. You know, maybe put a smile back on your face. And if you know this just isn't feeling right for your knees or your back, you could come out, watch, or maybe do some deep breathing while you're here, as we're all sharing. I know that there's at least 2 or 3 people, so thank you for coming in. And even just taking a moment to see the video. It's really great to have that support. And I hope that you're enjoying it. So here we are in Cobblers Pose, Baddha Konasana, and it is a hip opener. Right? You're opening those inner thighs for sure, and feeling how your sacrum is really releasing a lot of tension all the way up your spine. We're going to let our arms get really heavy. We're going to feel those inner thighs, feeling that great stretch. But what I want you to do next is when you inhale, form a contraction in your inner thighs so your legs lift an inch or 2. You feel that you're doing that. And exhale, let them stretch back again. So they're going to go down. And when you inhale, you're forming a contraction. The legs lift just a little bit. And when you exhale, maybe they'll go down. And when you inhale, the legs can contract. And this is the last time you're going to exhale, let the legs release down. And then if you can, I want you to start coming forward. Maybe place your hands on your hands on your toes or on your legs or the floor. And just see if you want to come further forward. Sometimes I'll get my elbows and press into the flesh and maybe come down any amount. And then again, you know, I'm not ultra flexible, but it works for me. My flexibility works for me because I practice this long enough that I'm not pulling and pushing so that, you know, I could look like my instructor. Because she was very flexible. So anyways, it's still a great practice. You know, you're working into your flexibilities and your strengths, and you really want to be non-competitive. Non-competitive, let your shoulders relax, let your head bow down a little bit. Feel your breath coming through. So this is the place, once we're down on the floor, that we really get the benefits of the practice when we were standing and moving and strengthening. Now we get to cool down and lengthen and really be supported. Let's take about 5 more breaths. See if you can release in between those shoulder blades. You can use your arms heavy on your legs. Okay, come back up. And take the legs back to center. And if you can, let your legs kind of stretch out a little bit here. Maybe able to move around on your butt bones. Inhaling and exhaling. It's really hot in my house right now because my air conditioner is making noise and I had to sit in this room, so I can't have the air conditioner blowing all the time. I hope you can hear me well, because if you can, I can't see you, and I hate to be doing a video with no sound, which has happened to me before. So remember that starting pose, it was seated Dandasana staff pose, our hands around the floor or fingertips. The knees could have been bent, but if you can practice with your legs straight, I want you to do so, sitting up nice and tall. So we're going to take this into a seated twist. It's going to give you a little bit of an outer hip stretch. So we're going to take our right foot and we're going to move it over to the left side. Now if you can get the whole foot down on the floor, great. If you can't, don't worry. So a lot of times that hip is really weak, that's outer hip, and the knee kind of pulls back. But you never want to do anything to hurt your hip or your knee. So if your foot goes flat on the floor, great. You could keep it down at your lower leg, middle, or upper leg. Find your posture sitting up tall. Interlace your fingers on your shin and lift your chest. Good. So we're going to move into a twist, and when we twist, we're going to twist over to the right. So the easiest beginning way I can show you here is just take your elbow crease and hug your shin. Sit up tall once again. And when you start turning to the right with your torso, place your right hand either right here at the side or behind you, and then start turning deeper from the navel, lumbar spine, thoracic spine, rib cage, neck, head, and gaze. So we want to sit up tall, keep the butt bones lined up evenly. I'm going to feel the breath coming through in that squeeze, especially around the navel. And when you exhale, you may be able to squeeze a little bit tighter so that you get more toxins released. When you inhale, it feels like that you're flushing. And when you exhale, you're squeezing out those toxins. And you can have your elbow crease on the left arm, drawing your right knee towards your left shoulder. Inhaling and exhaling. Let's go a couple more breaths. Relax the back of your neck. Feel your breath. Feel the bellow breathing. So very slowly, take the turn with your head first to center. And just want you to be careful as you come out to take that right arm, left arm, and then the leg back down to the floor. That you can realign your whole body. Right? You're going to sit up nice and tall. Maybe finding that seated Dandasana staff pose. And let's go back now to the other side. So we'll go with the left foot over to the right. Whether your foot's way down here, it's coming up. Notice I didn't lean back. I could go a slight amount back. But we want to get all of this lengthening with it, fingers interlaced first. And then maybe your hand or your elbow crease. So when you get elbow crease, what happens? You pull forward and round. But really what we need is we need all of this. I have to take the arm a little lower. We need to lift. So when we start to turn to the left, the legs don't move our hips. It's the torso. That left hand can set sideways, or we can lay it behind us. While we're turning, we're going to hug that knee in. So the left knee moves towards the right shoulder. And we're going to sit up tall, and we're going to keep turning to the left, inhaling and exhaling. So the chest is up, the head is up, maybe turn towards the left. When you inhale, you feel your belly and ribs inflating. And when you exhale, maybe slow down the breath so you can squeeze that abdominals You can squeeze a lot of toxins out. And when you inhale, refresh. It could be a really soothing posture when you learn it and practice it with this breathing technique of the bellow breathing. I want you to take a couple more breaths. Feel that you're still on the middle of your butt bones. Good, now take your head back to center, inhaling and exhaling. And then your arm, left arm, right arm, take your leg out, shake it out. So move out those legs. And what we're going to do next is, I feel like we're going to lay on the back for a little bit, and then we're going to do, we may end up coming back into a tabletop after that. So very carefully, the best way you know how, and hopefully you can hear me, because most likely you won't be able to see me. I mean, you can, but just watch your neck when you come down to the floor, the best way you know how. You're going to hug your knees into your chest. If you feel like you need a blanket or a pillow underneath the back of your neck or head, please do so. Let your shins come down so you really feel like you're giving yourself a big hug and squeeze. And the whole lower back is pressed into the floor. And here's that nostril breathing again. And you may even have your eyes closed, which is just so delicious, with the shoulders down, inhaling and exhaling. Like a child's pose, but it's really a lot better for your knees, for most of us. It's easier. We're going to move into the first pose to get a little bit more hamstring stretch. So let's let the left foot come down to the floor with a bent knee. Take your right leg up. Hold the back of the right leg. And if you have a belt, you can have a belt on your foot. So you can hold the back of the right upper leg, or you can hold, towards the top part. I'm going to keep the left knee bent for a little bit here just to make it easier. I'm going to take my hands down, shoulders down, and make sure your lower back is resting into the floor. Your lower back, and your sacrum is touching. So your foot is flat if you can get it there, without curling your toes down. I just want your foot flat, like you're going to walk on the ceiling. And then you're going to inhale, and when you exhale, can you let your leg fall a little bit heavier into your hands? Right, because it's coming away from you. And then we're going to inhale, bend the elbows a little bit, and see if that leg wants to come closer in. And when you exhale, straighten the arms a little bit, let the leg fall away. And let's just do it one more time. So inhale to see if that hamstring is willing, and that hip is willing to draw that leg in a little bit. Exhale. And then just find your hand position, maybe a little higher up your leg. And feel a little deeper stretch. Okay? We want to make sure we're in breath. Completed breathing. Neck is happy. Shoulder blades are down. The lower back is touching the floor. While you inhale, you're going to exhale and just let your hands fall down to the floor by your side. Your right leg is still up. So can you make a couple of circles with your right foot? Does it sound like a Rice Krispie treat? Sometimes it does when we're moving that ankle around. But it's really good to get that flexion, moving through. So once you've just done a couple of times, a couple of turns, just leave that leg back up for another moment. I want you to inhale. And when you exhale, with your foot flat, your back to the floor, your left knee bent, can you lower that leg all the way until it's about maybe an inch off the floor? Your lower back has to be flat. And now bend your right knee and take your foot to the floor. Both knees are bent. I want you to move around on your mat a little bit, so you're kind of wiggling around. Inhaling and exhaling, both knees are bent, both feet on the floor. You reposition your arms. The whole back is flat down. The left leg now is coming up. You're going to hold the back of that left leg somewhere. Maybe it's way up high towards your hip, or, on your hamstring level or your calf. Foot is flat. Okay, so when I go up too high to hold my leg, my head comes up and my neck gets all craned. So take your hands comfortably Wherever it feels good to keep your shoulders dropped, also the lower back's on the floor. Your foot's flat. You're going to inhale, and when you exhale, maybe your leg falls into your hand just a tiny bit. With your arms a little straighter, we're going to inhale, bend the elbows, see if that leg wants to draw in. And we're going to exhale, let it go away, straighter arms. And then we're going to inhale, let that leg come in a little bit more, exhale. Maybe your hands can go up a little bit higher. And we're going to just stay here for about 3 breaths, repositioning the lower back, taking the shoulders down. Make sure our neck is nice and happy so that the hamstring is happy, the hips are happy, we're happy, because those hamstrings are really tight for most of us. With another inhale, exhale, let your arms just fall down to the floor. Begin to make circles with that left foot or your opposite foot. Making a nice circle on the ceiling in each direction. You maybe hear some popping going on. That's a good popping, not anything bad. Feels good to make that range of motion. Good. And then once you're done, just let your foot relax, let your shoulders drop. Keep your foot flat with an inhale. You're going to exhale and lower that leg with a flat foot as slowly as you can. You can inhale and exhale here. Don't hold your breath. Until you're probably about an inch off the floor or 2, but your lower back stay flat. If that doesn't happen, your leg has to go higher. You're going to inhale. And when you exhale, well, you're going to bend that knee, left knee, foot to the floor, both knees bent. I want you to inhale, take the arms up to the ceiling. Exhale, let them fall on the floor behind you, behind your head if you can get it there. You may already have an arch in your back, which is fine, because what I want you to do is lift up with your butt getting tight and press up into a bridge pose, taking your chin in a little bit and down, and just feeling how you can bridge up. Bridging, and you may have to swish around your feet a little bit, right? And you can squeeze a block between your inner thighs, imaginary. And you're really working here and stretching your quadriceps and the front of the legs and hip flexors with an inhale. You're going to exhale and lower down. Inhale and exhale till you touch with your leg, your butt, your arms. Let your legs go long now. We're going to inhale, take a full body stretch. Inhale, exhale. Oh, it feels so good. Inhaling and exhaling until you're ready to get those arms and take them all the way back down to your side. We're going to bend the knees. And you're going to take yourself over. I don't care what side you want to go over to. You're going to come on up. And we're going to take on a tabletop pose. So we're going to start finishing off our practice. But I want to get into a little bit of tabletops before we do so. And when we do that, it's really coming in so that we're practicing a little bit more at the end, a cat and a dog, or a cat and a cow. So can you curl your toes under? And when you inhale, let's exhale, start with a cat. So tuck in your navel and lift your shoulder blades and drop your head. There's your cat. Inhale. We're going to start from the base of the spine in a happy dog tail. Lift our chest, maybe your head. There's your dog. When you exhale, tailbone tucks, navel tucks, shoulder blades lift, head drops. There's your cat. When you inhale, you're coming back into dog. So let's just do a couple more. As slow as you can go up your spine. You have this nice pelvis opening and rock available. Very soothing. Inhaling, exhaling is your cat. And then maybe just one more time, you're just going to move through your cat and end up with that dog to return to tabletop posture. Good. So once we have that tabletop posture, you're going to take your toes back down to the floor. And once again, you're going to sit back into child's pose. But what I want you to do, if you're able to, is take your arms down by your ankles on the floor, palms up, head down. Your feet can be, your knees can be touching or apart. It's really what's comfortable for your body. Okay? Shoulders down. So there's another pose that I like, and it's not so much really a beginner's posture,
but it could be a beginner's, like almost like a headstand. So what we're not going to do headstand. It's going to be rabbit pose. So we're going to interlace the hands behind our back. We're going to lift the head and a little bit of the torso. We're going to come up so the butt stays up, and then I want you to take the crown of your head to the mat and lift your arms for rabbit. Now this may not be doable at all, and you may have to stay in a child's pose. Stretching now your biceps. And my hands are coming apart because I have motion on my fingers. Crown of the head gets stimulated. Inhale and exhale, hands to back. Bring yourself back into child's pose. Inhaling and exhaling. So that's a really great stretch for your shoulders and your arms after doing a lot of downward facing dogs especially. So what I want you guys to feel out as you breathe here, as you breathe in and out,
Sorry about the air conditioner, is that we're going to come back to tabletop, just taking this last time here in this neutral spine. And walk our hands forward. I want you to lower back down onto your belly. Take a moment just to take an inhale to a low cobra and exhale. And then take an arm, swing it in so that you can come back down and lay back down on your back. All of these movements, they're just, really basic yoga movements, are just movements. I want you to hug your knees into your chest, because you can always go to the easiest level of yoga, whichever's easy for you, and still be having a really good, great practice that you're guiding intentionally for yourself. So once we're hugging those knees back into your chest, we're just going to take a moment, and this is going to be our inversion for tonight. We're going to hold on to the big toes in happy baby pose. Or you could hold on to your feet. You could hold on to the back of your legs. You need your back down on the floor. No bridging up at all on the lower back. So whatever you're holding on to, make sure your neck is happy, your head is on something. See how far apart you want to take your legs with a knee bend. And I like to sometimes take my elbows to the inner knee and open up here with a little bit more resistance, whether you're staying still or rocking from side to side. Okay, I can't rock a lot because I have a wall. But some people don't like to rock at all. They just like to be on the center of their spine and just kind of focusing on the inner thigh opening, the whole back pressed into the mat, inhaling and exhaling. So your feet are lifted above your head and heart, which is an inversion, inhaling and exhaling. So very, very basic postures. I always think it's great to be a beginner and have a beginner's mind and still be practicing yoga. Okay? Inhale, exhale. So you're just going to take about 5 more breaths, nice and slow. Inhaling and exhaling. Come back to the center of your back. Let go of those feet. Drop them down to the mat. Let your legs go long. Take yourself into a full body stretch. Inhaling and exhaling, and then when you're ready, you can just drop those arms back down to your side. So this last pose, for those who know yoga, is our final relaxation or Savasana pose. And yes, traditionally, you're going to be laying down on your mat on your back, with or without anything underneath your neck or your back or your legs. I mean, when you have a home practice, it just depends on what you have to use to get comfortable. I personally, if I didn't do a really big inversion, I will go to Restorative Yoga, and you can watch this if you want to. So if my hip flexors or my lower back is really tight, and I want to just kind of have my legs lifted, I could be on my couch or an ottoman and
I would get comfortable with my knees bent and my legs on this ottoman. All right, so that's going to release the hip flexors in your lower back. You could also come through and go legs up the wall. I mean, this to me is like ultimate luxury, to have those legs lifted up on the wall. My butt is touching the wall. My lower back is all the way down. And I'm not feeling anything in my hamstrings, which is great. But if you did feel something, that would be okay. So you could do that. Or like I said, set yourself up with whatever you need. And your final relaxation, your corpse pose, could just be laying down on the mat. With your eyes closed. And if you're still in a practice with me, or you're watching this later on, you know, if you needed to shut the video off and just come back in and lay down and maybe take 5 minutes for yourself, that's awesome. Hey Sandra, I see people here, and Jessica, and hey Sam, and Barbara, and Nikki. I don't know if you're all here, but thank you for at least coming in for a moment. I really appreciate it. So I set up this class to be a donations-based class, and if you enjoyed the class and want to donate, there is a link. I think it's right here on this page. But no problem. Understanding if you didn't. So I just want to thank everyone for coming in today. Do you want to stay on the floor and relax? That's great. If you want to take another couple minutes, I'm going to be quiet, and we're just going to finish off these last couple of minutes here and resting, and then I'm just going to shut the video off after that. So stay on your back if you want to. Allow yourself to learn how to self-soothe on your back and on the floor while I'm sitting up and we're quiet. The light in me sees the light in you. Namaste.